Ne çiğ de olacak. No. C'è problem şuna so. Ben nasıl ilan? Ah.
This and this. This one, yeah.
Да, я принесу сюда, чтобы вам удобно было, не то, что я.
Hey guys, what's happening? This is Jermuk in southern Armenia. Getting chilly here. The Alaska hat is out. A sign that the seasons are changing. Also, of course, the beautiful fall colors. And look at the snow on the mountains out there. What a sight. And I'm really not sure what's going on with this building, except that I would assume it is an abandoned project. And you might see the reason for it being abandoned in the course of this video as I walk through this little town here, and you see how deserted it is, although I think it is partly because it is low season. Probably the high season here is in the summer. So this video is going to cover a lot. It is going to be quite a random rambling video as I walk through the town and give you a little idea of this spa hot springs resort town in the mountains. Rather than making a separate video tour of here, I thought that I would just incorporate that into this video, talking about a bunch of other things. And so the main thing that I was thinking of doing for this video is do a recap of my entire trip so far. This trip of mine that has been going for 4 months now. I figured out, I think today is the 127th day of my journey from when I left Oregon, and I have visited altogether 13 countries on this trip. Now, for anyone who doesn't follow my channel or doesn't know my backstory, just very quickly then, I've been traveling for 30 years, and Armenia here is country number 71. This is actually my 19th extended trip abroad over the past 30 years of traveling, but I'm just going to cover this one trip. I will get to that in a little while. First, I wanted to discuss some other things. So this town here, you can see, is a cluster of apartments and some pretty nice hotels. Down at the end there is a really nice, probably like 5-star hotel. And I went there and had the buffet dinner last night that was just absolutely incredible. It was 3,000 Armenian dram, which is about $6 for a just massive spread of food. Armenia is very affordable. Even at the 5-star resorts. I also went to up here, the Grand Resort, and they have a hot tub and pool and sauna, and you can go there and soak in the pools and stuff and use the sauna without staying at the hotel and pay. It was 7,000 dram or $14, so not bad for a really nice place. I will show a little clip that I took with my phone last night when nobody else was there. Hey guys, check this out. Hot springs in Armenia. Nobody else is here, so I can film. It's not clothing optional, I do have shorts on here. This water is kind of lukewarm. It isn't like the typical hot tub temperature. I wish it was a little bit warmer, but still, I'm going to jump in there in just a minute. And then over here is the pool, a typical temperature heated pool, like just kind of warmish, cooler than the other one over there that I just showed. And this is, I think, the same temperature as the pool. Both just warmish. And this is where I'm staying. Got a nice room for $20 a night. Been here for 2 nights. Staying again tonight, and then I might take off tomorrow, in which case I will be here looking for a ride back to Yerevan. And I will also discuss why I'm not going further south from here in the course of this video. So I wanted to give a explanation of how I got here from where I was in the last video, in which I went from Yerevan, the capital of Armenia, and took a taxi that I got through Yandex, the app. So the hotel where I was staying in Yerevan called the taxi for me with Yandex, and took me to Pokervedi. And at Pokervedi, as you may have seen there, I stayed there at an Airbnb that I'd reserved for 2 nights, and then I visited a monastery there looking out at Mount Ararat. So this is the Grand Resort where I showed the clip of the pool and the sauna and everything. And so, as I mentioned in that video in Pokervedi, then when I reserved the 2 nights accommodation there at the B&B, which was really cool, the family there was amazing, and as you saw, the meal was incredible. So after I visited the monastery outside of Pokervedi, then I realized that I really didn't have much to do the next day and didn't really need to stay there another night. So the next day I decided to take off, and I told them, they didn't speak any English, but I had an app on my phone in which I could translate English to Armenian, and managed to explain to them everything was great. I'm just leaving because I'm ready to move on and go see something different. And so they were fine with that, and they even gave me a partial refund for the night anyways. Wasn't even expecting anything, but I then got a taxi from there. The guy called it for me, and looks like a local market going on with some local goods, canned fruits and things, and Baref is hello in Armenian. And so the guy there ordered a taxi for me. It was actually a friend of his, and took off from there, and it was a 2-hour drive to get to here in Jermuk. Now, the way that I found out about Jermuk was that, and by the way, I'll mention that I am walking to what might be a waterfall, if I can get to it, on the other side of a really spectacular canyon that is right out there. There's a bridge, and I'll walk over the bridge and then might be able to get down and see the waterfall. So the way that I found out about Jermuk is that I was looking at going to Tatev, which is south of here in southern Armenia. People had recommended it. Looks like a really nice mountain town. The problem, as I explained in that other video, is that I don't have a car. I didn't get a rental car for various reasons, because it was expensive. It was twice as expensive as in Turkey, where it was only about 30 bucks a day. Here it was gonna be like $65 a day. And also the roads are not good. The traffic is really bad getting in and out of Yerevan. My Google Maps won't work because I don't have data. I don't have internet. I have a cell phone connection, but not internet data. And so I wouldn't have the app actually telling me turn left here, turn right there, stuff like that. And so that is just one more thing that would make it trickier trying to drive around. And also just the issue of dealing with police, possibly. You know, it is a poorer country and things are different here. And anyways, I just decided not to rent a car. So I got the taxi out here. And so I was thinking of going to Tatev and was looking at how to actually get there. there are no buses that go there from what I found. There were buses that go from Yerevan to here. I discovered that looking on roamtorio.com, and it showed as an option to get to Tatev, either just take a taxi all the way or take a bus here. Probably by bus it meant minivan. Take a minivan here and then catch a taxi from here to Tatev. And so that brought this town to my attention, Jermuk, and so I looked into it and discovered that it is a hot springs town resort, and thought, wow, that actually sounds really cool. So I think I'll just go to Jermuk and decide my plans from there. So that's how I ended up in Jermuk. Now, as for whether I'm going to Tatev and further points south of here, including the country of Artsakh, also called Nagorno, I'll put a subtitle, Nagorno Karabakh, I think. Then if you look on the map, it looks really close, especially if you zoom out and see where I am now versus where Artsakh is. It's just like right there, and so it looks like, why don't I just pop over there? It's just like right there. Once you actually get here, it is not so easy. The drive getting here from Pokroveti was a 2-hour drive in the taxi on winding, bad roads, like bumpy, like kind of bumping a lot of the time and stuff. And from here to Tatev is another 2 hours on, once again, I'm sure, winding roads. And once you get there, it looks like from there, I think that is a border crossing down there. I actually haven't looked at it, just seeing the road on the map. Then it looks like that's where you would go, and then head for Artsakh. And so it's 2 hours to Tatev, and then from there, hours more to get into Artsakh and explore around there. And for one thing, then it's just more driving in that direction, in which I am then going to have to come back and cover it all once again, getting back to Yerevan. The other problem is I don't have a car. And so it would mean paying for more taxis, going from one point to the next, and Tatev is a really tiny little town, so I don't even know if there will be taxis sitting around there. All right, check out this view. I think that is the waterfall that I saw on Google Maps. So my hotel is just like right over there, and I realized that this, you know, whole canyon and everything was just like right behind me. And it looks like there's a road that goes around there, and then I don't know how people got down there. I should figure that out. But I thought I would make this walk here, and this was a good, you know, area to walk along and record this video. Wow. Speaking of mountains, maybe I got to figure out how to get that direction. Maybe I'll stay another day and make tomorrow a exploring day around this area. I don't know, I'm taking things just a day at a time here. And so basically then, at this point, I'm kind of inclined to not go for further south adventures. These are notes for what to talk about in the video. Instead of spending who knows how many days and just the whole hassle of the transportation situation, even though I'm just so curious to see that country of Artsakh, which, if you've never heard of it, it is not actually a recognized country. It is a region between Armenia and Azerbaijan that is disputed between the two countries, and there has been war, straight out, you know, war between the two countries in this area over the past 3 decades, since these two countries both separated from the Soviet Union, because of course they were both part of the USSR. And in 1991, when the USSR fell, then they both became independent, but then they had to draw borders between them, and there's a dispute about that region of Artsakh, and it is still disputed. Azerbaijan claims it is part of Azerbaijan. As I understand it, then it is a majority Armenian-speaking country, and it is now controlled by Armenia, so you enter from Armenia, and it's actually not a problem to enter the country. You would go south, and then there's border controls. I would have to show my passport, but it wouldn't be an issue. I could get in there. The problem is, one of the problems is, if you go to Artsakh, you then can't go to Azerbaijan. Okay, left or right? My original plan was to go that way, but well, let's go a little further, see if I can get a look. This is actually looking more interesting, like kind of walking into that canyon there. I think I will change plan and go that way. Jermuk. Looks like that's Armenian there, so I have no idea what that says. At least you can see the numbers, 1658 to 1711. Not sure if that is the years that this guy lived, or if he was a ruler or what. Anyways, keep on walking here. Jermuk mineral water. If you're wondering about the temperature, it is 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Chilly, but kind of refreshing, especially while on a hike. So, all considering, then I am at this point thinking of not going to Artsakh, and instead head back to Yerevan and do some more exploring closer to Yerevan there, and maybe see some stuff in this area, including on the way back. There are some sights to see that I didn't see on the way coming here. So I will try to capture a little bit more of this area, and then otherwise more around Yerevan and within Yerevan itself, the capital of Armenia. So looking at my list here, I've covered 1, 2, and 4. Number 3, Madeleine. Madeleine is the Belgian girl that I met in the minivan coming from Tbilisi, heading south into Armenia, and we stopped in Dilijan in Armenia for a couple of nights, and then went on to Yerevan, and I haven't seen her since then. We didn't end up meeting up again in Yerevan, but just thought that I would let people know, in case you were curious about her plans to go to Iran, because that was her ultimate destination. She was going through Armenia to go into Iran. Then I got a message from her today saying that she had crossed the border successfully. She actually met a Italian guy in Yerevan who was also planning to go to Iran, and they decided to team up. And good idea, especially as a single young woman. Better for to have somebody else to travel with. That brings to mind another issue of like, why don't I go to Iran? Because she was able to cross the border, and she's now in, I think it's called Tabriz, a city in northern Iran, and she's now going to be traveling around Iran for a couple of weeks or something. If I could, I would be really, really tempted to go for it and go into Iran. There's a problem, which is that I am American. I am from the United States, and because of the, hostage-taking crisis in the American embassy in Tehran, Iran in 1979, and that whole thing there, then relations are strained between the United States and Iran, and they don't allow you to travel there independently. I could still go there. You can still get a visa as an American, but Americans and Canadians can't go there and just enter the country and just travel around as they like. They can only go on a organized tour, a like government approved tour. And so I would have to set that up ahead of time. I would have to like fly into Tehran, I'm sure, and then start the tour, and it would be more expensive. And also it's just not really my preferred style of traveling for more than a day or 2 or 3 to be on a organized tour. I would still certainly consider it. Considering that it's the only way that I can travel to Iran, then I would definitely still think about it, but I'm not ready to deal with all that stuff right now. And so finally getting to the actual title of this video, 127 days of traveling to 13 countries, I thought that I would just recap the past 4 months of this trip and kind of fill in some gaps as far as like how I got from point A to point B, because you see these videos pop up. Suddenly I'm here and then I'm there, and how did I get between them, and cover a little bit of that, and then just also, you know, for anyone who didn't see all the videos, which, you know, nobody saw all the videos probably, but just kind of string it all together a little bit, just kind of for fun. And thought that I would point out this, you know, massive kind of ugly resort hotel that looks like it might be abandoned. Doesn't look very lively, but so this town of Jermuk was a like Soviet destination during the Soviet Union as a spa resort town. So that is probably what that building that looks so Soviet is from, the Soviet era, when Russians would fly in here and come to this spa for health and relaxation purposes. And so it is a, you know, transition in the history of all of these ex-Soviet countries that after the Soviet Union fell, then things shifted around a lot because Russians were no longer coming to these areas as tourists, and less business, I'm sure, as well. And there was a real collapse in the economy of a lot of these places that were previously filled with Russians coming here and spending their money, but probably Russians still come here and other tourists as well. I'd be curious to see this place in July and see if it's a little more lively. I can smell kind of a sulfur smell. I wonder if this right here is a like hot tub, hot spring resort building. I'll poke around, see if there's anything to see. So far I can see that I think this thing is abandoned there. And so starting the recap of my past 4 months of traveling, then it actually begins in the United States, because the adventure began with a 2-week road trip with my friend Sterling, starting in Oregon. She had a car, and along with her dog, then we traveled across the western United States from Oregon into Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and then I flew out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and started the international adventure in Mallorca, the Spanish island in the Mediterranean. From there I went to Mallorca, and I really had no idea where else I was going to go on this trip. A few, you know, general ideas, but I wasn't sure where I was going next. Oh, Jermuk waterfall. That's funny. That is probably the waterfall that I was trying to get to originally, so I can actually go there still. So even though I'm curious to go up the canyon that way, let's go ahead and go down the river and maybe still see the waterfall. It is almost a kilometer, and I bet it'll take that long to tell the rest of the story. So yeah, this building is definitely not occupied. So I wasn't sure where I was going to go next after the Spanish islands of Mallorca and Menorca, and then I was looking on the map and noticed that Andorra was like really convenient to get to from Barcelona. And I hadn't even been thinking about Andorra at all. It hadn't been on my radar to visit, but I decided to go for it, and I took a ferry from Menorca to Barcelona, stayed there for 2 nights. I didn't make a video there because I'd been there before and had already made videos, so I just spent a day like editing my, you know, stuff from Menorca. Had a great 8 days in Andorra, a underrated and not very well known country that I definitely recommend. I would go back, like exploring the Pyrenees there, hiking around the mountains, checking out the little villages. It was really awesome. And then from there I decided I wanted to get to Malta, which was actually one of the places that I had as a you know, on my travel list for this trip. And so I found a cheap flight from Toulouse, France to Malta, direct flight. I'm going to try to mention some flight prices in the course of this explanation, because I know that people ask about it and you know, are curious how much I end up spending on flights. Wow, look at this canyon. This is intense. But it was a really good deal. I think it was maybe $100 or something from Toulouse to Malta, and then spent another like 8 days on Malta, and it also was absolutely worth spending a week or even longer. Hello. Had a great time on Malta, and then I was checking where to go next from there, and I wasn't thinking about Italy, and then I found a flight with Ryanair that I think was 20 euros. Either 20 euros or 30 euros. I think 20 euros. And then after paying for luggage, then it came to almost 50 bucks for a direct flight from Malta to Perugia, Italy. I'd never even heard of Perugia before, but I checked it out and it looked like a cool city, and I decided to see a bit more of Italy. That was my third time going to Italy. Also, I was planning to visit a friend in Nice, France, who had some time off from work, a chunk of time, like 2 weeks or something. And so I was trying to figure out how to go there and visit her. She's a friend from Jasper National Park, Canada, from when I was working there back in 2013, and I hadn't actually seen her since then. And so I wanted to try to make that happen while I was in the same area. She's from Canada, Quebec actually, but works in Nice for a family as a nanny. And I might actually be meeting up with her again very soon. I'll leave that one a question mark because I'm not sure. So anyways, I flew to Perugia, Italy, and then went up through Italy, visiting Florence, Pisa, and Genova, and then went into France and visited my friend, and then went to Monaco, tiny little country in southeastern France, or bordering southeastern France and Italy on the Mediterranean, the second smallest country in the world after Vatican City. So that's where I walked across. And then from there, then I flew to Moldova. Now, prior to this whole trip, then I had already planned a trip to Uzbekistan. That trip was prearranged, a press trip it is called, a tourism promotion thing of the country of Uzbekistan. I was contacted by the Uzbekistan Tourism Board, something like that, kind of a government agency associated with tourism in the country. And that was before I even started the whole trip, and so that was already in place, planned. I was going to be planning all my travels around that. And so when I was in France, in Nice, then I knew that this trip was coming up, and I saw that I had basically like 5 days before needing to catch my flight from Athens, because the Tourism Board of Uzbekistan covered that entire trip. I wasn't paid anything, any cash. It was just all covered by them, including the flights there and back. Now, months before, when this whole thing was being set up, they asked me, where do you want us to book your flights from? And I had no idea where I was going to be months later. And so I picked Athens because, of course, I love Greece. And I was thinking that another Greece trip was sounding very likely, and so I decided to tell them Athens. And so they booked the flights out of Athens to Uzbekistan and then back to Athens, and then I would be back on my own again. So I saw this 5-day window before my flight from Athens to Uzbekistan, and so I decided to go to Moldova. Even though it was a, too short of a time there and my videos didn't do enough justice to the country to mostly just see the capital city, but better than nothing. And then I booked a flight from Moldova to Athens to catch that flight, and there in Athens I made use of the left luggage, and so I stored with them my tent that I'd been carrying with me my whole trip up until then, and my camping mattress and a few other things in order to lighten my load. Noravak. So Tatev, that is the place that I mentioned before, south of here, that I was thinking of going to, and Artsakh, the country, disputed country, that I would love to get to. I mean, look at that. That is something really, really cool. And so I stored the stuff in the Athens airport and caught my flight to Uzbekistan. It was a really cool trip and experience. Even though the whole organized tour thing was not the same as if I had been traveling around on my own, I would really like to go back and do Uzbekistan a little more properly, but it was a fun, unique experience to be on a organized thing where they do all the stuff for you, and it was kind of fun just to like kick back and have it all planned out. And also it was really amazing to meet all these travel vloggers and various social media Instagrammers and stuff like that, but especially meeting the YouTubers that I follow, that I've been following for years, because on the tour was Jacob Lukatis, another travel vlogger, Jordan from Travel Light, Alex Chacon, David's been here. It was really cool to get to hang out with them and travel together and get to know them. So anyways, after Uzbekistan, I flew back to Greece. I spent 3 weeks traveling around the Greek islands mostly, and did my camping trip and stuff on 2 remote islands. And then from there, decided to head into Turkey and visit Turkey for the 3rd time. All right, I guess this is the waterfall. Hello. Hiya. More of a cascade than a fall, I guess. All right, I can keep on walking this way. It'd be really convenient if I could get up there from here somehow, because my hotel is just right up there. But I might have to walk all the way back and then across that bridge again. We'll see. Seems kind of likely that there would be some way up around the corner around here, so I'll see. And so 3 weeks in Greece on the Greek islands, and then I decided to continue into Turkey and took a boat from Kos Island, Greece, across to Bodrum, Turkey. A very short boat ride, just like 30 minutes. And from there, I wanted to go back to Cappadocia. One of the main things for that Turkey trip was Cappadocia, go back there. I was there a decade ago, but also go to Göbekli Tepe, which is one of the oldest ancient sites in the world, the oldest like spiritual worshiping site from 10,000 BC, 12,000 years old, and I had heard about it for years. Some people mentioned Graham Hancock in the comments under that video, and he is who I originally found out about Göbekli Tepe from. I've been following his stuff for like a decade or so. He's kind of a alternative historical archaeological researcher who is looking at the mainstream theories of ancient history, especially various ancient sites around the world, and has a little bit different take on some of them, but he is also a very well-researched guy. He was a journalist, and he is not just like airy-fairy. He is actually doing very diligent research, and he's a diver. He goes to underwater sites and actually dives and looks at them in person and stuff like that. So anyways, wanted to see Göbekli Tepe, so I booked a flight from Bodrum to Kayseri in the center of Turkey, which is near Cappadocia, and flew there, rented a car at the airport, drove to Cappadocia, spent 6 days there, and then started my road trip going south and east, and headed for Göbekli Tepe, visited there, and then went to the city of Sanliurfa in southern Turkey, very close to the Syrian border, and then to the ancient desert city of Haran, which people had recommended in comments. I think that is how I found out about that one. So visited there, and then like a day or two later learned of the whole situation with President Trump pulling out troops from northern Syria, and as a result Turkish President Erdogan threatening to attack northern Syria. And I'd had a good road trip up to that point in Turkey, and decided, considering how wide open things were sounding with this potential war, to go ahead and finish my Turkish adventure there. Ooh, what is going on here? This is a ladder, or like stairs. I think this is going to get me back up, if it's like still safe. What a trip. I mean, it's not like blocked off or anything. It looks good, so I think I'm gonna go for it. Feels solid. Funny surprise here. Whoa. This will save me a whole lot of walking. And so I decided to book a flight out of Turkey, and found a flight from Kayseri, where I'd flown into, and needed to return the rental car to anyways. From there to Tbilisi, Georgia, capital of Georgia, the country just north of here, which I'd been to a year ago. And so I had wanted to come to Armenia at the time, but decided not to do it then. And so decided to do it now, and flew into Tbilisi. Oh man, getting out of breath already. And spent 5 days there. And then, as I said, caught a minivan from there into Armenia, and here I am. And I will end this video with a quick travel update as far as the future. Nothing is set in stone yet, but as I mentioned, I might be going on this trip with a friend, my friend from Nice, France, who's actually from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we're in the works putting together a possible trip together. And I'll just say that it is a country north of here that is starting to get real cold. And then from there, not sure, but I'm considering somewhere completely different that is not too far south of here in Armenia, Middle East. But I'll leave that open, and There are other places that I'm considering going to. Tunisia has been, wow. That looks sketchier on that side. It looks a lot steeper. So Tunisia was one of the places that I was really wanting to go to on this trip. And obviously haven't been there yet. So that might happen. And then maybe some other places in Europe. Maybe visit some other friends. We'll see. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. However, I will show you when I get to the top and let you know if I made it. All right. Excellent. That was a workout. And let's see where I am. I'm guessing near, yeah, the Jermuk Hotel and Spa. This is where I had the buffet. So if you're in Jermuk, come to Jermuk Hotel and Spa. $6, all you can eat. Really good food. And my hotel, just a short walk back up that way. I started the video right down there. Oh, gotta finish with this old van thing. Whoa, so Soviet looking. I like this thing, man. I'd buy one if I could. I wonder how much they are. Probably not too expensive in Armenia. Hello.